The story begins with two friends who made a bet one day. Whoever among them could live for 100 days without anything would win a prize of $14 million, which is about 117 crore rupees. After this, a man was telling the story of his great-grandfather. He and his wife had a total of 57 possessions. But then, during the First World War, they lost everything. Then his grandparents had 200 possessions. But after Hitler came to power, they too were ruined. After that, his parents had a total of 650 possessions. But even then, they were happy. If we look at today, a person owns about 10,000 things and also has the freedom to live life on their own terms. But still, we keep getting caught up in buying more and more things. Anyway, then we see a developer named Paul who wakes up to the sweet voice of a girl. But this wasn't a real girl, it was a virtual assistant whose voice Paul had created himself. On the floor below, Paul lived his best friend Tom. After a while, Tom got ready and came to pick up Paul because today they had a very important interview. But Paul was still lying in bed watching TikTok. Anyway, Tom quickly found some clothes for Paul and out of all his countless shoes, picked a pair for him to wear and got him ready. After that, the two of them hurried out of the house. When they arrived at the interview, they saw that, like them, thousands of geniuses had come there and everyone thought that what they had created was the best. Still, when it was Tom and Paul's turn, they managed to impress the owner of the company, David. But after that, the two of them had a bit of a fight because Tom had made some changes to the presentation without telling Paul. Anyway, later the two friends went to a nightclub to celebrate in style. But Paul still couldn't forgive Tom for what he had done. After a while, he drank quite a lot and completely drunk challenged Tom to a bet. Whoever among them could go 100 days without anything would win. Then, the next morning when Paul woke up, he wasn't wearing any clothes. He couldn't remember anything about what had happened the previous night. But then Tom told him everything. He said that according to the bet, whoever lost would have to give half of all his property to the winner. Now both of them had only one key to a storage unit, from which they could take just one item each day. Both of them were running naked on the street to get to the storage unit, and the people around laughed at them a lot. Paul took a warm coat and Tom took a sleeping bag so that he wouldn't freeze in the biting cold. Paul thought about stealing a couple more things. But then Tom saw him, so he stopped. Then after some time, Paul's parents came to visit him and found out about this bet. Tom was surprised that after hearing all this, they were actually quite happy. In fact, they believed that challenges like this send a message to ordinary people that they too should get by with only what they need and that there's no point in buying and accumulating unnecessary things. Anyway, a week passed like this and now Tom and Paul had some the necessary items had been gathered. Tom only took the things that would make his stay easier. But Paul picked up a smartphone first so he could talk to his virtual assistant, Nana. After that, both of them met a girl named Lucy in the storage unit. She was quite excited after hearing about their bet and had come to see how they would live. At that moment, Tom took the opportunity to ask Lucy out on a date. Meanwhile, Paul still hadn't figured out what was actually going on. Anyway, Tom put on his glasses for his first date but didn't wear any pants. Then the food he cooked was also quite strange. No girl would like plain food without any salt or spices. Still, the two of them shared their feelings with each other. But when Tom said he was going to be a millionaire, the girl burst out laughing because in this empty room, she couldn't see anything that suggested millions. Anyway, they kept talking and were getting closer when suddenly Paul showed up and ruined the whole mood. But Tom quickly sent him out again and happily started spending time with his new girlfriend. Then Paul went to visit his grandmother who used to tell him stories from the time of the war. She told him that once she had to flee her home with nothing but a single suitcase. That's when Paul realized that true happiness doesn't lie in these things. Anyway, the day finally arrived when he was supposed to meet the founder of a big company. That man wanted to buy the app Paul had created. But then Tom took a risk and instead of just selling the app, offered to sell them the entire company asking for 14 million euros in return. The founder of that company immediately agreed to the deal as well. But then a fight broke out between Tom and Paul because Tom had made the deal on his own without consulting Paul. To this, Tom said, "Come on, it was such a great offer. What more could you want? I didn't think it was necessary to ask you." Soon their argument escalated so much that they started slapping each other. And in anger, they changed the terms and put the entire company on the line. Now, whoever won would become the sole owner of the company, which was about to fetch 14 million euros. After this, when Paul went to visit his grandmother, he found out that she had been admitted to the hospital. When she returns, Paul's parents will send her to live in a nursing home. Hearing this made Paul feel really bad. Then, when his mother tried to give him money, he flatly refused because that would be against the rules. Even though there was no one there to watch him, he still didn't take the money. Seeing this, his mother was very happy. After this, when Paul went to the hospital to visit his grandmother, he saw Lucy going to the therapist. Later, when he met Lucy, he found out that she was an addict. But she isn't addicted to any substance or drugs. Rather, she is addicted to constantly buying unnecessary things. Anyway, later Paul came back and took some apples out of the trash for dinner. Just then, he was suddenly surrounded by expensive cars from all sides. One of them was the founder of that big company who wanted to buy Paul's app. Jokerman offered to cut out the middleman so that he could He wanted to make a direct deal with Paul. That's why he even gave Paul a check. But for some reason, Paul felt that something was fishy. In reality, the truth was that Zuckerman wanted to buy this virtual assistant app so that he could use it to force ordinary people to buy things they didn't really need. And the bigger thing was that they would feel as if they had bought it of their own free will. The unique thing about this virtual assistant was that it would adapt itself differently for each person, becoming their best friend. And then, time and again, under various pretexts, it would show people things and make them feel that these were absolutely essential items and that anyone who didn't have them was a fool. After this, we see that Paul and Tom arrive at Lucy's garage, but it was locked, and they found out that Lucy was in debt for lakhs. At that moment, Tom felt that all of this had happened because of Paul, and once again, an argument broke out between them. Ever since that bet started, their fights had only been increasing. Anyway, just then Paul remembered that he had Lucy's number on his phone and Tom could call her. But this made Tom even angrier because he thought Paul had done all this on purpose so that Tom would have to use Paul's phone and lose the bet. Now Paul was fed up with these daily arguments. That's why he decided to leave everything and go back home. But as soon as he reached home, he saw his mother sitting on the stairs. Just by looking at her face, Paul understood that something had happened to his grandmother. Meanwhile, Tom, searching for Lucy, reached her house. He told Lucy that the people he owed money to had locked up his garage. At this, Lucy started laughing loudly. She said that she was tired of running away from them. That's why she sold her garage to them herself. Also, the doctors have declared her ill and now someone stays with her at all times. But then Tom said that he had come to tell her that he had won the bet and now he would pay off all of Lucy's debts. After this, when Tom returned home, he saw that Paul had returned all his things. Then he found out that no one had seen Paul coming or going. When Tom went to question Paul's parents, his father said that maybe he had gone somewhere. Then Tom learned about Paul's grandmother's death, after which Tom immediately went to California in search of Paul. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we see that Paul had started living by a riverside. When Tom reached him, Paul was surprised because he hadn't thought that anyone would come looking for him all the way there. Anyway, then the two of them openly talked about their arguments. Then, while playfully fighting in the mud, the two friends let go of all the grudges they had towards each other. In the end, by talking things out, both friends understood each other's feelings with maturity and forgave one another. After that, both of them went to the party celebrating Tom's bet victory. But then Tom announced that he hadn't won the bet either, because he too hadn't completed the full 100 days. That's why both of them would get an equal share of the money. Apart from this, they started a new... They also talked about starting the project, but this time the project won't be on a phone but in the real world. Meanwhile, news came in that Zuckerman had taken control of the virtual assistant, and now he has refused to give money to Paul and Tom. Because according to his conditions, they have to learn to get by with the bare minimum. That's why he doesn't want to distract them from their goal by giving them money. Now everything was over, so Tom and Paul distributed all their remaining belongings among their friends. Meanwhile, when Lucy stepped out of her house, she saw a desk and a lamp on the street. Now, following the signs, she reached the forest where Tom was once again waiting for her without any clothes. Tom said that he was ready to accept Lucy even with her illness because he himself was not a perfect person either. But now, he didn't even have any money left. After that, they gathered only the things they needed and went far away with Paul. Now they knew that whatever they had was enough to be happy in life. Then sitting by the seaside, they were talking about their app. Meanwhile, Paul said that Zuckerman wouldn't be able to misuse their app for much longer. Actually, Paul had already programmed his virtual assistant in such a way that after some time, when it truly became a friend to people, it would itself tell them that this app was misusing their data. This would open people's eyes and they would stop buying unnecessary things. Just then, Paul received a message on his phone that the virtual assistant had started doing its job. So if you were to get 1.17 billion like them, what would you do? Be sure to tell us in the comments.